Who are we being visited by? Where's these UFOs coming from? How did this all get started?
Well, Mark, it's good to be with you, and we are being visited. And the truth is we've been visited for many, many, many millennia now here on planet Earth. And as a Bible-believing Christian, and by the way, I was a pastor, church pastor for many years, and am now, of course, deeply involved in writing and broadcasting with Prophecy Watchers. We've discovered that the whole UFO topic has rapidly morphed in the last few years, and it's becoming quite a propaganda machine. And if you've noticed, we're not even supposed to call them UFOs anymore. They're UAPs, you know. They're unidentified aerial phenomena or other terminology. But we're finding now that the government has found its voice at long last, and it's beginning to speak out on what they're calling UAPs. I still call them UFOs. And as a student of the Bible, I have for years now, for decades, I have thought that this whole phenomenon can be explained biblically. And the article that you're talking about, which is I've entitled "The Great UFO Cover-Up," essentially goes back to 1897 and skips to 1948 and Roswell, and then moves forward to the present, where we're all watching on television and seeing those strange little blips being tracked by Navy jets, and talk about our Navy aircraft carriers, etc., being buzzed by these little unknown objects, UAPs they're called. And the whole thing, to me, resounds with what the Bible has already told us about those who have come before, and they are coming again in these that we consider to be the last days, prophetically interesting days. But really, going back to the book of Enoch, which is quoted in the Bible, and Jude quotes the book of Enoch, we have a statement about a group of rebel angels who came to earth, and they interacted with humanity, including marrying human women, and they taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and armors, and they taught them the art of metallurgy. They taught them all sorts of what we would call scientific tricks and imparted scientific knowledge. And, of course, as you know, the Lord did not like this idea of interposition by unknowns, and there was a judgment that followed. Well, fast forward to the present day, and I think we are being revisited by the same group of people. Students of Scripture shouldn't be surprised, because they've read about angels and demons and principalities and powers and rulers of darkness and the prince of the power of the air, which is what the Bible calls Satan. And so that's the way I approach this whole subject. If you want to react to that, feel free.
Well, I know, looking in the article, it says, it seems that we're living very close to the period of time. Malachi talks, that says about the prophet Elijah will be sent to the spiritual leaders of Israel during the same transitional period, and they will experience a spiritual awakening as those days draw closer. And you also to quote the prophet Joel about how he writes about the frightening and heavenly phenomenon and earthly disorder before the day of the Lord arrives. Is this one of those with the increasing of this, and maybe how it's been shut away from the people for so many years and now all of a sudden being released? Is this being released as part of the end times plan of the way things are setting up to be?
Yes, I think the propaganda is taking effect. In other words, I think the idea is to take the enemy, as he has always been presented in the Bible, and recast him as a benevolent visitor from who knows where, Alpha Centauri, Epsilon Eridani, one of those fancy names from galaxies far, far away. And, of course, humanity in the last, I guess, 100 years or so has been very carefully coached on this subject in the whole sci-fi world, and we're all familiar with Captain Kirk and the gang,
yeah.
and visitors to this planet who have come with good intentions, and sci-fi has, I think, prepared man to receive visitors from other worlds. But I don't believe it's not a visitation from another world that we're seeing. It's a visitation from another dimension, shall we say. And the Bible really is very, very prolific in speaking about other dimensions. You know, we call it heaven. Paul said that he went to the third heaven, and he saw things there that he couldn't talk about, and he came back. So the Bible is really, in addition to being a spiritual book and a book about salvation, it's also a book that explains dimensionality, hyperdimensionality. In fact, Paul, when Paul talked about dimensions, there's a place, in Ephesians where he talks about length, breadth, height, and we speak about length, width, and height, but he adds a fourth dimension. And so we're not surprised, let me put it that way. There are non-humans in the Bible, and they are the ones who are obedient to the prince of the power of the air, which is Satan. And the air is the atmospheric heavens, and when we see those UAPs flying around, that's where they're flying. And when the jet pilots, their gun cameras, their radar cameras are taking pictures of these things, they're flying in what the Bible calls the air. I guess if you really get technical about it, is the atmosphere from maybe 0 to 10,000 feet, as it's spoken of in the Bible. Or, as the Greeks used to say, the air is the distance from the ground to the top of Mount Olympus, which is their way of saying about 10,000 feet. And so the UAPs seem to really be most often seen in that region. And I don't know about you, but I'm noticing more and more now little news items about the appearance of these vehicles to various people in various places. There was recently a big news flap that came out of Las Vegas that one of these things actually landed. And I think we're going to be hearing more and more about that. But let's put it this way. The Bible has lots to say about non-human beings.